Hi, my name is Lakshmi Garcia, and I am a second-year writing and literature student here at CCS. Last RACA-CON, I presented on Marxist literary analysis of Daisy Zamora's poetry. The importance behind my project was to highlight the intersection of politics and literature, as well as to shed light on Nicaragua's current political situation. It was a lot of reading. A lot of what I had to do was independent work. It was a lot of reading on literary theory, reading a lot of poetry, consulting with professors who had different backgrounds of knowledge that perhaps I didn't have. So it was definitely a lot of finding resources and mostly reading. Well, I think the biggest thing is, you don't want to give too many details to an audience. You want to give them just enough that they're interested, but also not so much that it's overwhelming. So I think the biggest point that I wanted to get across was the importance of researching within poetry. I think poetry is very often overlooked as, artistic and, way too abstract, but in reality, it can really communicate worlds of human emotion and even difficult topics like politics, which I think is very important to talk about. And so having it through the form of poetry, if anything, brings the humanity out of all, the political turmoil we can often go through. Language. I think it's so huge when we're talking about language and accessibility. I think academia is a lot of jargon, which is also a very academic word, but it just means very complicated words that are used. And so I think the biggest thing you want to keep in mind is, how am I going to make my writing appealing and accessible to audiences who don't know what, literary criticism is or literary theory is. I think vocabulary and definitions is huge, but also keeping in mind, if you were to separate yourself from your research, how would you explain this to, a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old? And I think that helps a lot. Teaching someone else about what you're working on, I think helps you realize how to make it more accessible.